Okay, I think we'll get started then. So welcome back everyone to the Digital PR Summit. I hope you've all enjoyed this morning. Lots of great talks from PRs up and down the country. I know I've taken loads of insight from the talks so far. And now we are on to a much anticipated part of the day. So our journalist panel, I have Ted, Lottie and Grace with me today, who are going to be answering all of our questions and chatting all things journalists and PRs. So I know when I sent over the initial questions, they must have seemed really basic for you guys, but I know I've been working in PR for about 3 years now, and every time I get the opportunity to talk to a journalist or watch a webinar or a chat with journalists, it's always really, really insightful. So thank you so much again for joining us today. I think it'd be great if we could kick things off with a little introduction from all three of you. So maybe a little bit about who you are, who you write for, and sort of how you got into journalism. So Ted, did you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure. Hi. First of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Hopefully not just to moan about PRs, to say, there is that danger, I think, with, when we talk to PRs, just to kind of sound off about things. I'll be as constructive as possible. Yeah, so I'm the travel editor at Mail Online. It's a role I've had now for, I have to think now, for five and a half years. And I've been at Mail Online altogether, about 8.5 years at Mail Online, but started in journalism. I mean, way back, it's a bit of a wobbly screen moment. Back in the late 90s, I started in journalism and did a sort of journalism course that I graduated from in 1999. And I'd already been writing a bit for men's lifestyle mags back then. I started off in Maxim, and then from there, yeah. So I started off in the days when we used to have to, every time we wanted a quote or a bit of information from a PR, we had to put in a phone call, even just for a simple fact. There was no internet.
Yeah,
we used to get like press releases on faxes. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks for that intro, Ted. Lottie, do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, I think you're on mute. Classic.
Sorry, yeah. Classic pandemic problem. I'm a travel writer and apparently a Luddite as well. So I'm a freelancer. I started my career in Rough Guides, where I was the web editor for a few years, and then I launched Love Exploring for a small digital publisher called Love Inc. I'm now freelance. Write a lot for the Telegraph. I do a few bits for the Times, and lots of stuff for Love Exploring still, and a couple of bits for Nat Geo and Woman & Home and Hello Magazine here and there as well. So a real variety of stuff. Obviously, over the last sort of 12 months, I've pivoted a little bit from travel and dipped my toe in a little bit of writing for the Mail, actually, in other areas and for the Telegraph as well. But largely, I focus on travel.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And then Grace.
Yeah, so I am I'm one of the 2 featured writers on Good to Know, and I actually haven't been doing journalism for that long. I guess it was kind of a bit of like a baptism of fire, really, over the last couple of years. So I'm on Good to Know now, but I've written for kind of Woman & Home, Cosmo, and the iPaper mainly. And I got into it just by doing like work experience, which I know is a bit funny to say, kind of, but yeah, like basically just doing work experience. So, and I've also done some PR work, so I do know a lot of where you guys are coming from when you email. So I feel your pain, I really do.
You sympathise. I feel like we hear a lot about journalists or people who've trained in journalism that go over to PR, but not so much the other way around. So that's really interesting to hear. Thanks for those intros, guys. So to kick things off then, I wanted to ask a really sort of general question. Basically, what you think makes the best sort of relationships between journalists and PRs. So Ted, did you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose the best way of answering the question is just to talk about a little bit about the best relationships I have with the best PRs. I mean, first of all, when I meet PRs, the first things I would say is, please just have a look at the travel channel on Mail Online. I'm sometimes surprised at how few people do this, but some of the best ones do. And when I come to meet them, they already have a really good idea about the sorts of storage we do, even before they've met me. And I can see, and it always stands out when I get emails from PRs that have taken a good look at what we do on Mail Online Travel. And when I say good look, you don't have to spend sort of 24 hours sort of studying it. It can just be 10, 15 minutes just scrolling through the travel channel and seeing the sort of storage we do. I think the PRs that do that are off to a really good start with me. And also the ones that filter the stuff that they send through. I think that the thing is, I also have done a bit of consultancy work in a PR firm, and I do feel your pain. I know the pressures that PRs are under from clients, and it's enormous. And I know that a lot of money goes into everything that goes on in PR. I mean, survey stories can cost, I know, tens of thousands of pounds. And so I know it must be quite easy just to sort of ping everything that you're doing through to the journalist. But I think that the PRs that I have really good, solid relationships with filter the stories out beforehand that they think might not work so well. Yeah. So and the PRs that I get on well with, I see their names pop up in my email, and my eyes are drawn straight to them. And there's a bit of a chicken and egg thing that goes on with sort of getting noticed, I think, by journalists. I think once you've got a good story published, then you stand out, and then it's easier for the journalist to see you in amongst the often what is a tornado of emails coming in. So I think in summary that the PRs that I have the best relationship with, I think, put in a little bit of work, understanding what it is that I'm looking for in a story.
Yeah, I think we've all seen a real sort of shift from the sort of spray and pray approach of just, as you say, pinging out to hundreds, sometimes thousands of journalists, which definitely isn't the way to sort of go around landing that coverage and sort of helping journalists out to write their features as well.
Yeah, I think that I think I can see what happens is you end up on a database, you end up on a mailing list, and then and I can see I know that I'm on these databases because I get all sorts of random emails. And the downside is that then the good stories sometimes, unfortunately, then get lost amongst the stuff that isn't quite so relevant, Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Lottie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me as a freelancer, it's, I guess, a little bit different because I don't have sort of one publication that I'm working for, so I don't have a sort of set agenda, I guess, sort of like Ted does. So for me, what makes a good sort of PR journalist relationship, I guess, is when a PR just takes time to ask me what I'm doing. And I don't mean just dropping me an email and saying, what are you working on right now? I actually find that deeply frustrating because I just don't have time to tell everybody what I'm working on right now. But pre-pandemic times, when we were able to meet up and go for coffee, I would often do that because I really appreciate the face-to-face relationship. But also, just I think it's about seeing what I've done and seeing what I'm interested in, and then trying to follow up on that. And I think it has to go deeper than, I saw you wrote a story about Uganda. Do you want to know more about this thing in Uganda or this hotel in Uganda or whatever? It has to go a bit deeper than that. And I don't know. I think what I'm trying to get at is the best relationships I have with PRs are ones where we have spoken on the phone or we've met up for coffee, We've been really frank and honest with each other. I know who their clients are, and they know the kinds of stories I want to do. I write a lot of stories because I'm a freelancer and I have to make money, so I write a lot of stuff. Not all of it is stuff that I really want to write or I'm really passionate about. So I think that that's the key, is knowing who I am and what I'm interested in and what I'm passionate about. Because a lot of the stories I write, I don't pitch them necessarily. They come to me and say, can you write this or can you do that? The stuff that I will pitch is the stuff I'm really passionate about. And so it's about finding out what that is, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's sort of a common theme from sort of speaking to you guys and other journalists, that, you know, having met a PR, or as you say, having those phone calls and sort of actually building that relationship does make it a lot easier to work together. If someone was trying to sort of build that relationship in the first instance, and sort of, do you get a lot of suggestions for sort of, let's meet up for coffee, or I'd love to have a phone call with you? And how do you sort of think is the best way to sort of approach building that relationship?
For me, I think, you know, an email, you know, I'm interested in what you're doing, or I like what you're doing, and would love to talk to you about some potential stories. Do you have 10 minutes for a quick phone call? Not Zoom, I can't do any more Zoom. I think just a quick email, just really short and sweet. It doesn't need to butter me up. Just, you know, I just sort of be nice and just ask. I'm happy, always happy to chat. And if I'm really busy, then I'll just say, I can't this month. Let's, you know, nudge me in a month's time.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Grace, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I guess I would just echo what the other two have said, really. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, I'm sure, like, literally everybody does. I get so many emails. Like, I currently have about 1,000 in my email box from like this week, and I've deleted some. So I get so many emails. So ones that are just aren't relevant to me, I'd like to be brutally honest, probably just delete without even looking at. Because like Good to Know is a kind of like parenting magazine. So if I get something about like sunglasses, and we don't cover fashion, so if I get something about sunglasses, I'm just going to delete it, because that would make it like 1,001 emails. So I guess like just stay relevance is probably like the biggest thing, I think, for me. And when it comes to kind of like making those kind of more solid relationships with like coffees and chats and stuff, I think for me, like I'd like to maybe like work with somebody first, because like I remember when I first started my job, I had so many PRs like reaching out and being like, let's go for coffee and stuff, which was great. Like it was great to see, but I don't have that much time, so it'd be great to kind of like work with PRs that I already have a somewhat established relationship with, and who, like the others have said, kind of know what I do, and what the magazine does as well, quite importantly, not just me.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to hear that you're all sort of on the same page with that one. So I know a lot of the PRs on the call today are likely going to be working maybe in more sort of agency roles, so working on a large sort of breadth of clients rather than just representing one client, one product, one sort of service. Do you tend to find that it's easier to build relationships with these types of PRs? Or is there any difficulties with working with PRs who have a lot of different clients that they sort of work with? Lottie, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, actually. I mean, some of my best PR relationships are with in-house PRs, and I think the big difference there is just that they know their product inside out, particularly in travel, where it's quite important. You know, if you're the in-house PR for a tour operator, not only do you have to know everything about the tour operator, but you also have to know about the destinations. There's an awful lot of knowledge that's required to be an effective PR for a tour operator, and I often find that those in agencies perhaps don't have that same level of granular detail and knowledge that you might have if you're in-house. So I think if, you know, you can, I don't know what the advice here is, because I can't imagine how difficult it is to juggle so many clients, and particularly if you've got tour ops or you've got tourist boards, to be able to know everything, or as much as you'd need to know about those places or those companies. I can't imagine how difficult that is. So I'm not quite sure if I have any advice, but I suppose it's just you know, if you can't know everything, know the really, really important stuff. I think there's a lot of the time I have met PRs who don't have sort of the basic details, like departure dates for trips that they're trying to plug, or you know, seasonal events and information on destinations and tourist boards and stuff like that. I think, you know, the really important stuff, if you can like nail that, then hopefully the rest will be okay.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I personally work in an agency, and it's something that I think all agency team, and really, did I cut out then?
Yeah, you did cut out. Yeah.
I thought I did. So yeah, I was just saying, as an agency PR, we're always sort of striving to be that additional part of the internal team and try to get to know the product or the service sort of as much as possible. So yeah, I suppose that advice is really sort of valuable, just to really get to know the nitty gritty details behind our clients' sort of offerings. Ted, I saw you were nodding your head throughout Lottie's answer.
Yeah,
Did you have anything to add to that?
I was agreeing with everything she said. Yeah, I know this might be it might be frustrating to hear if you work in an agency and you've got lots of clients, but yeah, I do find myself gravitating towards trying to talk to the people that are in-house, because they are on top of on the brief, and they know the product. They naturally know the product better than someone in an agency. It's not always the case. I know people in agencies who are really on top of things, but I tend to gravitate towards the in-house comms people if possible, just because that's their entire world is that one product. And I'm sure there might be some PRs listening thinking, oh, you know, it's almost impossible to sort of have that kind of in-house level of knowledge. But yeah, but like echoing Lottie again, it's hard to know what the advice is for this. It's just, do your best to be on top of it, and sort of almost, just revise your own products and offerings. And also, this is a sort of bit of a nuts and bolts thing here, but if you send out a press release about a good story, just be ready to be on the end of the phone to deal with the questions. I think one of my frustrations sometimes is you get a great story, and then when you phone back or email back for more information, the PRs, they've gone. And so then I sometimes end up going to the in-house comms to get it sorted out. So that's one bit of, I don't know how useful that is, but yeah, that's sometimes the PR seem to sort of disappear at the end of the day, just after they sent the press release. And so then I end up Abby, you're laughing, you've done that, haven't you? Straight there. No. and then I sort of go to my contacts in-house, you know. But I appreciate that it's really difficult, because, you know, there are some clients are bigger than others, and you know, some demand more time, some less time. I completely understand that. But yeah, I think that just treat each client as a bit of kind of, just revise it and try and be as on top of it as you can. It's always really helpful for us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball in here and say that I love it when a PR comes into my inbox and is like, I've got 400 clients, kind of thing. Like I love that, because I write about so I do the majority of my work for Good to Know, but I write about kind of like so many different things. And sometimes I just need a nutritionist to comment on something within about 20 minutes, rather than like a kind of, I'm looking for like a product, or someone's giving me information I'm just expressly like looking for one person. So I love it when that happens. And I guess in that case for me, they wouldn't need to know in explicit detail about the companies, because I just need like a medically qualified nutritionist or like a PT or something like that. And I think around lots other like similar titles, it's quite like, you see those call outs on Twitter all the time being like, I need to talk to, and you don't have to know that entire person's like life history to be able to put them forward and for them to be successful, at least like in my experience, I would say.
Absolutely. I suppose that's more about the sort of different roles that journalists hold, and what they're writing about. For Ted and Lottie, probably more just focusing on travel, whereas, as you say, Grace, you're sort of covering a huge breadth of topics and stuff like that. Yeah, laughing at your comment there, Ted, because I was thinking about the mad rush it is on a PR's end when a journalist comes back saying they want to cover the story, and then you're trying to scramble to get everything together. So yeah, that's
sometimes I can feel that. Yeah. Oh my God, you want to run it? You want to run it? And you're like, yeah, I want to run it. So I've got some questions though, and then there's this kind of slight pause, like.
Yeah. So I suppose for PRs, it's probably good to note there then that you should have everything ready to go. So as soon as a journalist comes back, you're there ready, waiting to sort of ping over everything you guys could need to write up that feature.
Yeah. And on that point, just quickly, that I was talking about how I started off in print and then moved to online. What I found moving to the world of online, and this isn't just Mail Online, this is, I think, all online, global, national publications. The pressure is on a magazine. You have this, on say a monthly magazine, you have your slow week, slightly quicker week, slightly more frantic week, and then crazy week when you go to press. Online is just, it never stops. The pressure, as soon as I log on at 8 o'clock or often before that, it's just constant. It's constant pressure to get stories out. And that's why I was talking about the sort of, being on top of your brief is helpful, especially in the world of online, because quite often we don't have time to kind of ruminate over the story or sort of peruse it or think about it. It's just like, we need it done in sometimes 1 hour. I've had 15-minute deadlines before for stories, and you just need the answers as soon as possible. Sometimes you get the kind of let me know if you want a press release about this. Like, I want everything now. I need it live in like an hour. But it's a different world. I suppose if you're freelance or you're working on a monthly magazine, the rhythms are different. So I suppose I would just say to PRs, just try to understand as well about the rhythms of the publication that you're pitching to. I mean, our rhythm is just frantic from start to stop all day long. There's no sort of downtime. It's just,
Yeah. So I suppose there's no such thing really then as too much in an email. If you've got everything you need, then that's sort of a better case scenario. There
isn't a day that goes past when at some point I haven't thought, just send everything. Yeah. Don't say, if you'd like another image, let me know. Just send it. I'm on the story now. It's got to go out. Send it.
That's really good to know. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So my next question then is sort of based around some sort of recent controversy. I don't know whether you guys saw it. I know the PR's Grace is smiling. I think she might know what is coming. But a journalist basically put a tweet out saying about a PR had emailed them saying, hope you're well. And then basically sort of slagged off the PR for sort of using that sort of nicety to introduce their email. So I was just kind of wondering what your guys' thoughts were on that. Whether you had any thoughts on, like, obviously it is ridiculous, but whether you had any thoughts on how PR should be conversing with journalists, and also whether there were any of your guys' personal bugbears when it comes to sort of emailing PRs. Grace, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, I know exactly the tweet you were talking about, actually. Yeah, I mean, I think like going ham and taking something from Twitter and incorporating it into an email when it's like a personal thing is probably a bit far, but like, how are you doing, happy Friday, like, is nice, like, why not? I'd say that, like, I don't really feel negatively about that at all, and I don't really know a lot of people that would. I think maybe that's just like a rare kind of a one-off. I don't know, but for bugbears, I guess it goes back to the relevance thing. Like, sometimes I get 3 follow-up emails from one PR who seems to be like, it's not just kind of like constantly following up with all the 400 people on their list. It seems specifically for me, but it's just not relevant. Like, it's about something I've never written about before. The magazine doesn't cover, and they keep following up. And I think at that point I would just, again, like, delete the email, or like reply, and it would probably be, just like, we don't cover this kind of thing. That would be my main kind of bugbear, I guess.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm sure most journalists are very lovely. I think PRs just see all of the sort of negative things where people are getting sort of outed on social media. I suppose from our point of view, it's sort of getting to know what's best for each journalist. And like at the end of the day, you aren't going to please everyone. So I suppose if you want to put that Happy Friday in your pitch email, then go for it.
Yeah.
Lottie, did you have any thoughts on that at all? Any bugbears?
You know what, I really don't care what you start your email with. I'm past that first line and go straight to the meat of the story. Sorry, there's a UPS man at my front door. Hopefully he'll just leave it there. I've had about 20 packages delivered this week because I'm writing for the Indie Best. So yeah.
Amazing. Perks.
No, I'll probably skip past that first line. And you know what? Of course you hope I'm well. You don't hope I'm not well. So fine, say it. But I mean, they're empty words. If it takes you 5 seconds to type it, it's a waste of 5 seconds, but it doesn't matter. I don't care either way.
Yeah, perfect. Ted,
I'm just agreeing with everything Lottie said. Mail online. I don't have time to think about how they've addressed me. My eyes, like you, Lottie, go straight to the story. I don't care. I really don't care. But I do have a couple of bugbears. The one that never goes down well with me is, can you do me a favor? That always kind of grates on me. It's like, especially from the PR that I don't really know, it's like not really in a position I don't sort of log on in the morning to do favors. I sort of log on to write stories. And, it's not like a sort of Mail Online isn't a kind of, a blog post that I own. It's a global newspaper. I can't really sort of justify to my editor doing PR's favors. I don't know, but yeah, my eyes again, they go straight to the story. I think Hope You're Well I mean, I don't know about what happened here, but so someone on Twitter outed a PR for saying Hope You're Well on an email. I think that's personally, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just think that's just. I go back to slightly before the email days. My career goes back to, when we used to have to write letters to people. And it took me such a long time on email to even stop writing dear at the top of it. I still do that sometimes. I sort of treat an email like a sort of I have to write a complete message. It really pains me to be really short with people. Sometimes I just have to because I've got no time. Yeah. But the other, so going back to the bugbears, the other slight one I have is when the PR sort of rams in all of their clients' branding messaging into the sort of subject of the email or at the top of the email to me, because that gets in the way of the story. And quite often I'm like, you're not writing this for your client, you're writing it to me, and I'm sort of facing the reader. Just get on with the story. You can see them writing their sort of, global leading eco-friendly company, blah, 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 with all the trademarks in it. And I'm like, just give me the story. Just give me a Hope You're Well and then the story. That'll do me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good takeaway.
I actually do have a bugbear actually that is sort of specific to freelancers. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, go on.
But it's one massive bugbear I have is when someone emails me and says, I've got this story and I thought it would be good for Woman and Home. And I'm like, well, I'm a freelancer. Great that you think it's good for Woman and Home. Go to someone in-house. That's and I mean, it sort of depends on how I work with different publications. So for Woman and Home, for example, I don't pitch. They send stuff to me or they ask me to go and do things for them. It's the same with Hello Magazine. They ask me to do things for them. I can't pitch to them because they don't really accept freelance pitches. Obviously, it's very different with the Telegraph. I'm constantly pitching them. But I think it's frustrating when a PR enters my inbox and says, I've got this story for Hello, or I've got this story for X, magazine. And I just think, okay, well, I'm a freelancer because I want to write for who I want to write for. I don't want you to tell me who you want me to write for.
Yeah.
That's a thing that frustrates me sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good insight. Yeah, that's really, really good insight for freelance especially. So thank you for that. So my next question then is around how many stories do you guys typically work on a day? So we all know that obviously your days are very, very busy, lots of features going out. And also how far in advance do you typically like to plan features? So Grace, did you want to kick things off?
I would say like I mean, I don't work for a magazine that is like anywhere near as busy as like the Mail Online, you know, so I guess it will definitely differ from publication, but I'd say possibly like maybe kind of like, it really depends, but maybe like four stories a day, and then I'll be working on like another 2 in the background. But our features tend to be quite lengthy, and we don't go for kind of like quick kind of like, this is what you need to know. They tend to be quite long, so they do take a bit longer, so we write less of them.
Yeah, that's really good. And Ted?
Oh yeah, this is the classic question. And yeah, how many stories do we do? We don't get. I'm not told how many stories I have to write. It's more about the clicks than how the sort of volume of number of stories. I think the record for the number of stories, just to give you an idea about what it can be like. I think the record for the number of stories we published on the Travel Channel in 1 week is 120.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, that's what I mean. The size of my team has sort of gone up and down. I had a slightly bigger team when we did that, but that's gives you an idea of how many stories we're doing per day. Like, it gives you an idea of the kind of pressure we can be under. However, having said that, sometimes we just do a couple of stories a day that get the same number of clicks as 10 stories. So the travel desk at Mail Online, I would describe it as a bit of a we run it like a news desk, but it's also a bit of a hybrid desk. So we do obviously do features as well as shorter form news stories. So I don't really have a sort of I don't have a set number that I do a day. And every time I log onto my computer in the morning, I never quite know what I'm going to be writing about that day. I think that I do. Quite often within a couple of hours, my strategy is just being torn to shreds because simply stories have arrived, and probably the furthest in advance I'll plan a story. It's hard to say, but probably the furthest is something like 5 or 6 days.
Okay.
But I quite often get asked when PRs quite often say, when do you think you'll be able to publish this story? And that's just almost impossible to say. All I can say is the best I can do is I hope I'll find a window potentially in the next week, but it just depends literally what happens in the world, because on Mail Online Travel we do hard news and those softer features. So we write about emergency landings when that's in normal times, and we have done. We write about sort of Ryanair baggage issues, but we also do hotel reviews. So it's a real mixture. So sometimes I just how much we write and when we write it is just always in flux. That's the thing that I love PRs to just bear in mind. And I can't always give a solid answer.
Yeah, no, that's really good to know. Lottie, are you the same at all?
I feel like my days are possibly a bit more chill compared to Ted and Grace. I don't tend to, in a single day, I mean, because I'm a freelancer, my deadlines are usually a good maybe few days or week, or sometimes if I'm really lucky 2 weeks in advance. I mean, sometimes it's, I'll get an email that morning and have to file a piece by lunchtime. But those are sort of rare occasions now. But no, normally I'm quite lucky. I'll probably work on a story a day. I mean, it helps that I'm not doing the news stories, and I'm not doing the sort of quick online publishing thing, and I'm doing slightly more involved stuff. And it's just, as a freelancer, I guess it's I work to my own schedule rather than a publication's publishing schedule. My deadlines are obviously based on their publishing schedule, but it's definitely a bit more chill for me. So I tend to be working a good, I don't know, week or 2 in advance of my deadline, and then that's probably another week before it's going to publish.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. So I suppose, again, it's kind of getting to know each journalist and their sort of schedule and how they sort of like to work. So obviously we know that it's really important to stand out in your guys' inboxes. You get thousands and thousands of pitch emails, very busy days we've just sort of run through. Are there any things in particular that make pitches stand out? And are there any things, I suppose, other than relevancy that instantly put you off? Ted, do you want to kick things off?
Oh, yeah, it's yeah, what makes something stand out? I mean, it's going back to, I think I said earlier about the chicken and egg thing. Think an email will stand out if you've got a good story with me before, but I don't know how helpful that is. Once you've got in there and your name crops up again in my inbox, this will be, I think a lot of journalists probably think like this. I'll see your name in my inbox and my eyes will go straight to your release. But if you've never met me, you don't know me, yeah, it's going back to a bit of that kind of the branding thing that I was talking about. Just don't pile in all the branding and messaging at the front end of your email, because it can look a bit spammy, a bit irrelevant, and don't forward things on from previous emails you've sent to other journalists. I see this a lot, where the first two letters in the subject line of the email are FW or RE, and then sometimes, you know, the wrong publication in. I think the other thing to bear in mind is just how fast I delete emails, and a lot of journalists will probably delete emails at the same speed I do, which is maybe sometimes 1 second. That's about how long you've got to get my attention, maybe 1.5 seconds. That's how fast I'm going through my inbox and deleting them. So you've got about 1 or 2 seconds to get my attention. And the best way to do that, putting exclusive in asterisk, that might get my attention, but please make it a good story.
Yeah.
I think I can sense some PRs putting exclusive when their heart might not be in it, just thinking, do you know what? This just put exclusive. They can have it as an exclusive. And it's like,
you'll be bombarded now.
Then I feel guilty if I don't reply. And sometimes I haven't always got time to reply. I'm sorry. But I think just try and get the nub of the story into that subject of the email as best you can, the nub of it. And if it's a relevant story from Mail Online, that should do it, even if I don't know you. And don't be afraid to nudge me as well. I do miss emails. You know, I have other people on the team that nudge them back to me and forward things, but don't be afraid to nudge. But please don't, like Lottie, I think it was Lottie saying earlier, don't, nudging about things that are completely irrelevant. Don't do that, because that's just clogging things up.
Yeah, so I suppose when you're looking through your inbox, then you're sort of scanning for those sort of keywords that you think are going to make a great story, like you said, the exclusives. Do you think exclusives still work? I know when I first got into PR, that was something quite commonplace, that if we had a story that we thought would be amazing for one journalist and one publication, we'd offer it exclusively. Does that sort of work with you and how you work? Yeah,
it does. Absolutely. And there's always various ways you can cut an exclusive as well. You could just try letting us have the story ahead of everyone else. Say the press release goes out at 9 o'clock in the morning, but maybe you give us the press release the day before. That can work. It doesn't have to be a complete exclusive. You can sort of do it by the hour, or say you can have it 2 hours ahead of everyone else, or look, I'm just going to give you the pictures the day before. So you just get a head start. That can work. Oh, it absolutely works. I mean, we have this great little button that we love putting on our stories with exclusive, with a red border around it. We love using that. So definitely, yeah.
Amazing. Grace, are you the same? Do you think exclusives work? And what sort of things are you looking out for when you're scanning through your inbox?
Well, I guess the main way I find stories is either through kind of like big news hooks or like Google Trends. So I'd say it's actually quite rare that I take a story from a PR and use it, because also like I have an editor, like I'm not the big chief, so I have to put forward ideas that like are actually going to like work for the site, and often that's not just coming, it has to come from somewhere. So I wouldn't say an exclusive for me is like a big thing, because we normally have our own angle on it anyway. So even if it's been covered by like 3 big name newspapers, like we'll still have something extra to bring to it, kind of thing. I'd say for me the big thing that works is if like you're pitching like a fitness company, you've got a story about a fitness company, and you've got an expert comment in there, but then you can also give me access to that expert, is like a big one, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I love this, and I'd love to ask them about this, and they'll be like, oh, well, they're actually not available today. And it's kind of like, I can use it, but like I might find something else better. kind of thing. So I'd say like access to experts that you use in the press release is like a big win.
Okay, yeah, that's really good to know. Lottie, what sort of things do you look for in your inbox?
I think sort of echoing what Ted said about not putting all of the sort of corporate bump at the beginning of the email or whatever. I think I'm drawn to emails that look like they've been written by a person and not, you know, formatted and like made to look pretty and made to look like a press release within the body of an email. I don't know if I'm unusual in this respect, but I sort of like my, you know, the PRs that I respond to the most and the emails that will grab my attention are probably just fairly basic. Hi, Lottie. I have this client that, you know, the story is this. I thought it might be interesting to you, or, you know, whatever. There's a rule in writing, particularly I think in travel writing as well, that you should write how you would speak to your friends in the pub, you know, talk about a destination like you would describe it to your mum or your brother or whatever. And that's how I sort of want my emails from PRs. I want you to address me like I'm a human being, and I want you to write like you're a human being. I want you to write like you would speak, not just, you know, using all that corporate language and stuff. So I think for me, it's just stuff that looks genuine, looks like it's been written by a person and has had sort of care taken over it, I guess. I really, 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 really hate receiving images within the body of an email because it's the formatting just messes it all up. But
yeah. So Dropbox folders, stuff like that. Is that the way forward?
Yeah, definitely no WeTransfer because I never download images immediately.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, WeTransfer. Oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
you know, just saying, can you resend the WeTransfer? It's a daily task.
Yeah.
The link is expired. Why? I mean,
that's such a good point.
Oh, Dropbox all the way. Although, yeah. I mean, if I'm feeling disciplined, yeah, if I'm being disciplined, I'll download them straight away. But yeah, like Lottie, I don't always have time. I don't always notice, or just don't do it straight away. And inevitably the link is expired. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good to know when we're doing our pitches. So I'm just aware of time. We've got about 5 minutes left. We've just had a question through for Lottie specifically. So saying that Lottie has mentioned that she sometimes gets assignments and sometimes she pitches to publications. So is there anywhere that we can find this information, or is it just a case of sort of building that relationship and getting to know what you're working on?
So I mean, obviously when I'm pitching to publications, pitches either come from the recesses of my brain or they come from, you know, maybe a PR's got in touch with an interesting press release and it sparked an idea and I want to include that in the piece or whatever. In terms of when I'm given assignments though, I guess, so recently I've been doing stuff for Indie Best, and I tend to use Twitter most of the time to put call outs for when I need PR input. And I use all of the usual databases as well. So for travel in particular, Trav Media, if you have travel clients and you're not on Trav Media, then you're basically irrelevant to me because or I'm irrelevant to you because you won't see what I'm doing. Trav Media is my absolute go-to for getting PR input when I need it.
Okay, that's perfect. Great, thank you. And that's good to know. Grace and Ted, are there any sort of tools that you use that you particularly like to sort of gain PR insight, experts, stuff like that?
I use Response Source like all the time. I think I do sometimes use Twitter, but I just find that it's not always like super useful because you get people being like, oh yeah, I'll send you something, and then they never do. So I find that like Response Source is just like really good for that, and you can also include all like your details and your hyperlinks and stuff like that via email on that. Yeah, I'd say that's the main one, but yeah, Twitter I guess is the obvious one.
Amazing, yeah, love Response Source, so that's good. Ted?
Yeah, same. Yeah, I use Response Source fairly often, and Trav Media as well. Yeah, they've been really useful. Yeah, especially for these sort of roundup-y things where you want sort of input from multiple experts or multiple products, whatever. Yeah, those are really useful. Definitely, both.
Perfect. So to finish the sort of Q&A panel today, I was just wondering if you could all sort of give us one takeaway, anything you would sort of say to a PR to sort of help build that relationship, and help get their pictures through to you guys. Grace, did you want to kick off with that one?
I hate to say what we've literally the one word that we've said throughout the whole way through, but I would literally just really stress that if you want to get something in one specific magazine, it has to be relevant to them, because it's just going to go nowhere otherwise. Like, it really has to be in the same ballpark as what the person is writing about normally, and it's like so easy to find out that information, so it really stands out when it's not been done. I'd say that, yeah, that's like the main takeaway. And I guess as well, sometimes the way I'm contacted on, and I'm sure this happens to lots of other journalists, the way I'm contacted on social media is sometimes a little bit interesting, let's say. Like I get kind of like messages from people on like Instagram, and yeah, like it says my job title on Instagram and stuff like that, but I don't want to be like pitched on Instagram or like pitched in my DMs or like straight off the bat kind of thing. And stay away maybe from like over familiarization as well. Yeah, that's
really good to know, I suppose. Sort of sticking to those boundaries and not sliding in the DMs is a good tip to stick to. Lottie?
Gosh, one thing, I should have been thinking rather than listening. Yeah, I really don't like being contacted on Twitter unless I've specifically put something out there to say, you know, here's the thing. I can't be that difficult to find. My email address is on all sorts of databases, so please arrive in my inbox, not my DMs. I don't know. I mean, for me personally, one thing that always gets my attention is when someone compliments my dog. I'll always send an email where someone asks how my dog is. I don't care if you hope that I'm well, but if you hope that my dog is well, I will absolutely reply. And I might show you the picture if you're lucky.
Oh my God, that is amazing. Such good insight. I love that. Ted, any sort of tips from you to finish on?
Well, aside from the obvious, like, you know, posting me wine or biscuits, be careful of the bribery there, but I think that I might have to circle back to the beginning about just one takeaway. Read the channel, and so you have a good idea about what we do, because I think some PRs think that we just sit and drink daiquiris and write about holidays, and it's so much more than that on Mail Online Travel. Have everything ready to go for me. I mean, other journalists might not matter so much, but online, just have everything ready to go. Mm-hmm. Say, hope you're well. I mean, I hope you're well. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to say hope you're well.
To say hope you're well. Have everything ready to go, and bear in mind that we're so big on pictures on Mail Online. So having imagery that is cleared copyright-wise for us to use and ready to send over, or just send it anyway. Yeah, that.
Amazing. That's really, really good insight. Yeah, that this session has been so helpful. I've loved speaking to you guys, so thank you so much again for joining us. Hope you all have a fab rest of your day. And thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's been fun. Thank you for having us. Yeah.